What's up, everybody? John Chesbro here, and I'm going to do a song breakdown of a song that I want to release. It's called Breakthrough. It's an instrumental track, and I'm just going to go through some of the tips and techniques and some cool things you can do in Reason. So yeah, this is Breakthrough. I'll play the beginning of it, and then let you guys hear it. So that's like the first about a minute of it. I wanted to highlight this cool vocal thing I did right here, and I was playing with Reason's new utilities that they have in this Reason 13 update, and this is the vocal part I did. Check this out. What? So I'm basically turning my voice into like a synth or a vocoder thing here. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically just recording that melody, the whoa, oh, and then I got, oh man, I cannot see. My eyes are so bad. But I like this Audiomatic transformer here in Reason, and then with the new Ripley space delay, there's like so many beautiful sounds in that thing. But combining those things, you can get some really cool textures. And what I also did, see if I can find the Vox pump. Yeah, so this pumping thing here with this sidechain tool, you see I got a couple on here doing that effect. And I'm basically using it as like a riser slash voice effect to transition into the next part. And it's a really cool transitional thing instead of like using a riser, like a, I've used that with timpani where like you do like a big timpani hit and get a good reverb tail, and then you reverse it and use that as a riser to hit to transition into your next part. This, however, is something totally different. I'm using my voice. Hitting that note. And I'm using that tail end of the voice part here with the pumping. So there's the voice effect with the Audiomatic transformer and the Ripley space delay to give it some of that texture. And then that tail end of the vocal part is doing, most of the transition. And then I'm doing a panning automation with it as well. So with the whole track, it really, it brings it into that next part in the chorus. And then, I add the cymbal hits with it. So listen to the whole thing here. Listen to the... Oh, whoa. Like right onto that side. So that's really cool. It gives it not only texture, but movement in the stereo space, and it's unique. Like I'm not using my guitar or like a pre-made riser. I'm literally singing a melody, not as a main melody or an underlick or a counter melody, but literally just as like a transitional piece to move into the next part of the song, which is really, I think is really cool. I'm giving myself some pats on the back. Yay! So I think that's really cool. As far as the drums go, it's just a simple beat. You know, I'm gonna make a video if it's not already posted by now, by the time I post this. But you know, I use a lot of stock Reason stuff. Reason's got great stuff. You know, you don't need everything under the sun here, but we got some orchestral stuff, and then you know the main beat here is the rhythmic drum machine. Yeah, I'll play the beat. I got a little bit of compression, boosting the mids a little bit so it can come through the mix a little. And you know, when I make these beats, I just do it on the MIDI board. I start with like either the hi-hat or the kick drum, and then I just kind of build the beat off there. And you know, there'll be another video on that. But you know, I keep it simple. You know, use one or two things. I do like the BBC Symphony Orchestra for these timpani hits and the crashes. I was gonna do a timpani build, but I don't think I did in this one. No, oh, it looks like I did here. Oh yeah, I did as part of the vocal. Yeah, okay, you know, I did do that. Didn't even realize it. But yeah, basically you do a timpani hit with some reverb and you reverse it. Simple and very effective. And then at the end of it, instead of doing like a reversed timpani hit to a normal timpani hit to then transition the track, I'd use a crash. So it's a reversed timpani building up with the reverb, crash, and then also the what I do here with the vocal and the drums here, they're reversed as far as the stereo space. I like using the stereo space because I think it makes the song interesting. They're basically going like this. You know, that they meet in the middle and when they crash and then they finish off. So they're like, whoa, and like, you know, that stereo image there I think is really interesting. Keeps the song interesting, keeps the composition interesting. You know, like people have 2-second attention spans these days, so anything you can throw in there for someone to be like, huh. In the lead line, another Reason update, the polytone. Great plugin from Reason, man. These guys just, they don't miss. I will say I don't like their new searching system here that they have, but I feel like they made up with it with the Ripley space delay and the polytone here. But yeah, listen to this lead line. And that why, like that part, I'm using the modulation wheel on the MIDI keyboard just to get that that effect. And later in the song, I actually play that on guitar as a harmony. That harmony. And admittedly, I could tighten that up for sure, no doubt. But you know, it's cool tricks like that, like harmonizing the synth with the guitar, you know, using the stereo space with your production, and then you know, just like there's no rules. You know, use your vocal as a riser. Who cares? Put a orchestral drum into it as a riser, you know, and use the stereo space. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? I think that's really cool. What did I do here with the acoustic? Oh yes, this is another little filter trick here I did to help transition that part. That transitional part alone is a really key thing here. Is I'm using a filter on the acoustic. I'm using my vocals as a riser, and then the pump effect on the sidechain, and then I'm using the timpani trick with the crash cymbal, the reverse timpani trick with the crash cymbal to transition to that part. That big transition is, it's making the lead part that much more exciting. I like the acoustic part too. I think it's really nice. I use the Rode NNT2A. This is what it sounds like. Beautiful chords. I'm gonna double track that for sure. I'm definitely gonna tighten this up. There's spots that are loose. I'm not gonna say I'm a genius here, but I think this is a really cool song. I think it's gonna be something really cool. I like that I use some different techniques here, and it's interesting, and it's not just like the same old bullshit. So hopefully that helps you out with your next production, and yeah, try to do something unique. Go outside the box. Don't do what everyone else is doing, because that's boring. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm John Chesbro. Like and subscribe, do all those things, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I never thought it would end this way. I'm never satisfied, always astray. But there comes a time